From classic 2CVs, we go to rear-wheel drive Mazda MX-5s in the second race of the weekend for the AD Modular and Thermal Road Mazda MX-5 Championship, the second race of the weekend. And off onto the formation lap go are Mark 1s after an excellent race yesterday. Saw twice vice-champion Adam Sparrow pick up the victory to kick off what should be, hopefully, a season for him that could see him finally pick up the title he'd missed out on 3 times. He was vice-champion twice in 23 and 24, and he did a part season last year due to lack of finance. But he's back on the front row of the grid after winning yesterday, and he starts on pole for race 2 alongside Neil Chisnell, who starts on the front row, hoping to finally get a victory after coming so close in the 3 races he ran yesterday in Clubman and in Championship yesterday. Steve Foden, former champion himself, starts on the second row of the grid alongside Michael Taylor. Then Michael Green and Jason Greatrex then come next on row 3 from Richard Wooten and one of the Mazda youth development drivers. Philip Rawson had an impressive run yesterday in the ex-Ali Bray Championship winning car from last year. He starts 8th. But it's Matthew McCluskey and Dev Singhal with an impressive run yesterday, one of the rookies in P10, from Chris Thirlwell and MX-5 Clubman veteran Paul Bateman starting P12. Daniel Langiel and Dennis Pilamonkin starting on row 7, alongside Tim Storer and Peter Williams behind them on row 8. Then it's Simon Privet, Harry Storer, Bradley McLagan and Richard Bartlett on the top 20, followed by David Scowler, for Andrew Gilligan, Josh Pato, and then Chris Wright and Paul Simard should be at the back of the grid as well to make it a 26-car entry. I think there's one car we're also missing, I think, from the entry that didn't start or didn't do anything. Adam Craig should be back there as well. He starts right at the back of the grid in P6. And he should be pretty quick given he didn't start yesterday, but he has been a podium finisher before, so he could be one to watch for in car 29 from the back of the grid. If he's on good form and the pace is decent, he will be one to watch right from the back of the field.
Last the first challenge at Snet for Adam Craig. Let's see how he gets on.
Well, we've seen that before in Clubman. I spoke about yesterday, of course, Jordan Pimley, who won both races to set off his title defence of the MX-5 Clubman title, which is sponsored by Kumo tyres this year. He came in the wet here from the back of the grid, about 27th on the grid, basically from the back of the grid, all the way to the front and won the race, which is genuinely one of the best drives you've seen. I think Richard John Neal was here that day as well, and it was an incredible drive from start to finish. I think that happened when I was possibly maybe at Knock Hill or somewhere else. It was a different circuit, but it was genuinely a fantastic thing to see. The weather is still looking pretty fair. It's a little bit cooler than yesterday. It was about 15, 16 degrees topping out today, but now it's at a high at the moment about 10 or 11 degrees, a bit more breeze in the mix and slightly more humid, 71 degrees as well, but it is quite blue skies and fairly sunny with some scattered cloud around, and that's the end of my career as a weather reporter. So back into our formation lap for the Mazda MX-5s. Again, the established front runners are, we think, for the top 3. It's going to be between, we think, this year, between Sparrow, Chisnell and Foden. But, of course, some other surprises in the mix as well. Wootens was quite strong last year and yesterday too. Jason Greatrex getting back to some of his good pace as well. We're looking at 52 on the screen, which is the 52 of... Why can I not find him on the actual screen here for some reason? 52. I think he must have come out of the race. Paul Simard, that's it. And he's moved up from the MX-5 Clubman Championship, where he was one of the top drivers in the rookie field last year. But good to see Paul in the mix. He was getting some podiums and pole positions last year in Clubman, stepping up to the championship. And for those who wonder, because there are 2 Mark 1 MX-5 championships, if you weren't watching yesterday, we've never seen this championship before, the AD Modular Thermal Road Championship is a 3-race, 2-day format. The Kumo Tyre MX-5 Clubman Championship, same exact car, so you can use the same car in both championships, and some are, because there are some who are running the red windscreen banner of Kumo tyres that you run in Clubmans. It's the yellow windscreen banner of AD Modular and Thermal Road for the MX-5 Championship. But the Clubman cars and Championship can run in both championships if they wish to do so. Only difference is it's a separate championship and it's 2 races over a single day if you choose to have better logistics that way rather than 3 races over 2. But this has been a longer standing championship, been around since roughly around about its current format 2013 or so. Club has been around since 2021, but it was an offset of the fact at one point we used to have about 60 to 70 Mazdas, or at least 50 to 70 Mazdas entering per weekend, and they used to split them up into 2 groups, and you had a promotion relegation system to kind of go up from Group A to B and back again, and you'd score points. So if you won Group B race, so let's say it's 40 cars in the field, if you came top in Group B, you'd score the points equivalent of you in an entire grid scoring 21st place. So you wouldn't score the same points as being Group A because those are the front-running cars and the faster group. Following? No? Good, we'll carry on. Anyway, we're all set to go in a moment's time, waiting for the right second ball, which is up now. And so, Neil Chisnell looking for 2 from 2, but from Aaron Sparrow looking for 2 from 2. Can Chisnell, Foden or anybody else stop him from getting another victory here today? Lights are out, and race 2 for the AD Modular Thermal Road MX-5 Championship is go here at Snetterton in the sunshine. It's a clean start from the front row. Chisnell tries to go with Sparrow, but slots in behind him. Foden also locking in for third as they come down towards Ritchie's for the first time. And there's 2 cars off. One is Rawson. Also in the barriers go Greatrex. And also in there too is one of the AB Motorsport cars. 94 was in that as well. I think that is Dennis Pilamonkin. But both Rawson and Greatrex into the barriers, and there might well be at the very least a safety car because both are unable to move, I don't think, into Wilson Hairpin. In fact, red flag immediately. Not really surprising, just to be safe. Race has been stopped. And I think we might have some time to play with anyway, which means we've got some chance to quickly recover the cars and get them forward. So not always what we want to see at all when it comes to racing, but thankfully Jason Greatrex is out of the car and he's out of the race. Now, Philip Rawson's car wasn't moving either, and I think he's been stopped by the marshals and the rescue units saying, look, you weren't running at the time of the red flag, we need to make sure you're okay because you have both hit the barriers. So therefore, unfortunately, that is the race over. Only lasted 25 seconds before we got to the red flag. It's a shame to see. We never want to see incidents in motorsport. Of course, it is a non-contact sport, we have to remind you. But nonetheless, both drivers appear to be moving around, and in any incident, big or small, John, they will go to the medical centre, be checked over by the CMO, the Chief Medical Officer, to make sure they are all okay. But the main thing is, of course, the main concern for the drivers is both hopefully getting out of the cars unscathed and all okay, because you can repair cars, you can't necessarily repair humans. So hopefully they're all okay. That's the main concern. But red flag from our second race of the weekend already for the AD Modular Thermal Road Mazda MX-5 Championship. So the drivers will come back around onto the grid, reform into the exact same grid positions, and then go for take two once they've cleared up the incident down towards Richie's corner.
Yeah, never how we want to see a race kicking off, but yeah, good to see the drivers seemingly all okay from that incident, but an immediate red flag then to kick off their second race of the weekend. Looked to be a good breakaway start at the sharp end, again settling back into the usual order that we got used to in their race yesterday. But yeah, shame, a couple of drivers there finding the barriers, one just able to scamper out of the grass and rejoin at the back of the pack, but those two Mazdas a little bit worse for wear, a bit of repair job needed in preparation for their next race later on today, which will be around 20 minutes past 4. Of course, we've got a bit of time to play with here, hence this red flag coming out to get everything sorted nice and speedily. So, but those times that I'm giving you are also very provisional, so just make sure you're sticking around and keeping your eyes peeled for the racing action you want to see today. But equally, stick around for the whole live stream. Why not? There's amazing action throughout all the championships on the bill here today. But drivers all pressing on round then, down the back straight they go, all just staying in nice, slow, single file as they'll head on round. And as Scott said, get regridded in their original positions. We had previously red flag end of yesterday where we got regridded, but they completed those 2 necessary laps, so they got gridded up in the order that they'd got into. So the drivers who had had a great start were able to then regrid in those slightly improved positions and carry on. But for this one, we've only completed a couple of corners, so it will be back to original grid positions. So sadly, for any drivers that had a fantastic scampering getaway, they're going to have to try and do it all again here as we go for the restart. But Rawson also out of the car then. Good to see him standing up on both 2 feet and looks all okay, but getting those provisional checkovers just trackside before they head to the medical centre just to get that final sign off. And hopefully we'll see them both out for race number 2 later on. But there we go then, drivers all heading round back to the start-finish straight. And we've got a bit of time. Maybe Scott wants to continue his weather report. We'll see if we can get you a green screen for the next one, Scott.
I need one of those clickers where I can just move it. So look on the western front, it's much more warm around here compared to anything else. But only place for racing today is Snetterton. So if we go even more western, it's going to circuits that have nothing to do with us. So anyway, there's the weather report. Director's listening. So, update weather report. It's currently 10.2 degrees at the moment, a wind speed of 10 miles an hour, 71 degrees humidity, set to go as high as around about almost 12 degrees. There's the weather report sponsored by PowerGen.
We spoke about going any further west, but if you go any further east, you'll be in Norwich and then you'll be in the sea, so that'll be less than ideal.
And then in France / Belgium / Netherlands. So, that's completely different realm of racing altogether. We just had French with the 2CV, so sacre bleu. Anyway.
I was hoping you weren't going to lead on to me trying to speak French, because my B at GCSE level is not going to stand well.
I did French at GCSE, but apart from that, that's the only French I ever did. So remembering any of it is kind of, apart from the useful stuff when ordering, I don't know, food or a beer in a restaurant, it's probably, it's lost on me in that sense. I did Spanish and German at one, and I also did a 20-week Italian course and forgotten almost all of it. So that was a great investment, well spent.
The only French I know is mon petit poisson, c'est mort, which is my little fish, it is dead, which is absolutely useless. But if I ever happen to find myself in France with a small fish that has passed away, I'll be absolutely set.
So this stream is now sponsored by Duolingo. As we move on to the red flag here, what's the time? It's now, what is it? 11, 11:15. We've gone mad already. There you go. Motorsport does that to you. Anyway, moving on to more sane matters, which is this red flag here with the second AD Modular Thermal Road Mazda MX-5 Championship race. As you see, that's the reason why. But Philip Rawson's car, which is the white car, the AB Motorsport machine, and Jason Greatrex's red and white red line racing machine, both coming together. Also involved with Dennis Pillamonkin briefly, but he managed to drive away from that. There are quite a few recovery trucks, but it's only because to make sure both drivers are okay. You can see the Jaguar safety car is holding the pack down at the top end of the pit straight. The Jaguar safety car that was supplied by BRCC's very good friends and partners at Run Your Fleet. So good thank you to them. RunYourFleet.com, go and check them out. And the safety car, I think he's probably in the process of getting a new livery, because it's got a very simple safety car decals on the side and front of it, so it's not anything too fancy. So it's almost going in incognito mode slightly, with the safety car lights on the top as well. Cars are making their way, have been given the clear to go back towards the grid. Of course, to remind you, as we didn't even complete a single lap, the rule is within the first 2 laps, if the race is stopped, it has to be restarted, it does so from the original grid positions. And of course, the grid positions were set by the finishing results of race 1 yesterday. So it means that Adam Sparrow and Neil Chisnell will go back on the front row of the grid. I should mention also, Neil Chisnell actually a guest this weekend. So it looks like his main run is going to be in the Clubman Championship rather than in the MX-5 Championship. But it's a shame if he is a guest, because that means that collectively he won't score any points. And that means that if Foden comes second, it means he'll be able to pick up points as if Chisnell wasn't there, which he will be visible for scoring, but he'll still get a trophy for his efforts as well. So Adam Sparrow is now lined back up again in orange, in silver and orange. I should correct myself, because whilst I was waiting to go back to my Airbnb yesterday, Adam Sparrow sort of drove up, and he sort of lightly chastised me that I called his car silver and red. I was like, that's how it looked on the screen. So it's silver and orange for Adam Sparrow. And further visual confirmation, it is orange. So with the purple BC Cars Motorsport emblazoned on the side, of course, that's the team run by 2015 Mazda MX-5 champion in this championship, Brian Chandler. I remember there was an occasion before where he was quite dominant, and his car was of all colours purple, as is his brand on top of that. So I approved of that too. Big silver stripe down the middle. And there was a moment, I remember, a couple of times at Croft, where he, not once but twice, he had quite a long lead, and then came out to the final corner, and twice, but once you think, okay, that's just him playing around, but twice he seemed to either do it purposely or by accident. He spun both times on the exit at the final corner on the last lap when he had a few seconds, and still won both races. I remember the interview, we simply just went, whoops, and then just carried on. So that was his all he had to say about that. But Brian, of course, a successful team boss. Of course, he's now running his own squad in Mazda MX-5s, and he has run in other championships before as well. I think he's raced a Porsche and GT Cup before, amongst other things he's raced. He's raced the MX-5 Super Cup, and he's done other things on top of that. He's also run a Lotus Elise a couple of times, Rick Siege in, I think, Club Sport Trophy, which had a couple of his drivers who have raced in with him before in Mazdas, so he usually jumps into that car sometimes whenever he feels to do so. He's also raced the Mazda MX-5 Mark IV in more recent times, when there was the Mark IV Trophy and in Club Sport and other championships where it permits him to race. So Brian likes to still race as much as he can, a lot on top of being a team boss and running his cars, and he runs cars in both MX-5 Championship and Clubman. Of course, his main charge in MX-5 Championship, arguably, is Adam Sparrow, given that he took a victory yesterday, and he's almost run into the championship in two occasions, 23 and 24, but he missed out on both occasions. Once to Steve Foden, I think in 23, if I'm right, and 24 was Thomas Langford, because then last year was Ali Bray. So he's come close. He not only pedals a good Mazda, but he can set a good one up as well. So he's a pretty handy driver and team boss, is Brian, and looking to try and hopefully add a title as a team boss alongside him being a champion himself as a driver. So we'll see if we can manage that. Should mention also, so we can see them, massive thank you to all of our marshals, officials, volunteers, our circuit members as well, the staff members who are working hard as well, also the medics, everyone involved, the rescue crews, everyone who gives up their free time to come and make sure that events like this happen for BRSCC, because genuinely, even without the marshals, or not at least them, but everyone else who gives their time, quite simply, genuinely, legitimately, events like this cannot happen full stop. So without them, we can't go racing. So thank you to all of them for all their hard efforts, and for the marshals in particular, who literally come rain or shine, whatever weather, whatever season, whatever circuit, whatever event, they will come out there. They are hardy souls who do this for the sport they love, and they do it because they enjoy it and want to be an integral part. And they are an integral part, and remember, they do this essentially in their own free time. They do it because they want to be part of it and to be involved in and have an impact. And so the marshals are a vital part of motorsport in general, so massive thank you to them. If you're watching in the comments, I know there's plenty of you are watching on the stream, about some 250, 300 of you. Do drop some thanks marshals or some orange hearts or icons in the chat if you're watching, because they do deserve the praise that they should have, given all the hard work they put in to make these events happen. And again, of course, thank you, of course, to BRSCC and all the sponsors and all the championships involved, everyone here to make these events possible. And of course, thank you, of course, to our live stream crew as well, to Barry Welch and Digitex for bringing this all to your screens here on YouTube as well, on that side. And we are pleased to bring you some club racing at its absolute finest. And of course, he's even blown me a kiss in the as well. I'm not sure if you're flattered or scared. Moving on, but anyway, it's it's a long day ahead. Haven't started yet. It's 11:15, and we're still waiting for the clear out to be finalised and for the barriers to be checked that they are all good. It was a light impact between both cars and the barriers, so it shouldn't be too much effort to make sure they're all good to go. And as we said, both drivers will get, at the very least, a mandatory precautionary check over just to visit the medical centre, just to be absolutely sure, because a driver can walk out of the car and seem absolutely fine, and then if they keel over 2 hours later, then it shows there was something not quite right. So go to the Chief Medical Officer to at least get a sign-off from them that they are all A-OK. It looks as though the scene of the incident has been completely cleared up, marshals are back in place, and all the recovery vehicles and support vehicles are back. You can see the tyre marks of where the incident happened as the cars went off the road. As we now focus once again on the front row of the grid, Adam Sparrow on the left in silver and orange, compared to Neil Chisel's all-blue car. You can see it's got the Kumo tyre MX-5 Clubman windscreen banner on top. As I mentioned, you can race a Mark 1 in both championships because they are identical specifications, eligible for both, and you can do so in that sense. So Marshall's getting back off the circuit, and I think we could be, in a few moments' time, Mr. Ratcliffe, all of us getting set to go racing once more in MX-5s to carry on this very sunny second day of racing for BRACC at Snetterton in this season opener here in spring.
Indeed, yeah, hopefully not too long until we go back to aggressive racing action here once again in the MX-5s. Everyone doing a great job to get that incident cleared up. Yeah, thankfully, only more of a glancing blow of the barrier that was from the two drivers. They sort of went into it and then sort of slid down it, but luckily not too much fixing needing to be done. And as you mentioned, it seemed as though we've cleared the scene of the incident anyway, and everyone getting back to post. So I think we will be going back to green flag conditions in a few moments' time. It was nice to see as Sparrow and Chisnell pulled up on the grid. There was a big wave from Chisnell to Sparrow saying, "Hello, let's go back racing. Let's have good fun." Nice to see the camaraderie between the two drivers on the front row as well. But you're mentioning about team manager. I think he's going to be telling Adam Sparrow, "Do as I say, not as I do. No spinning at the final corner, please."
I think that's as civil as both Sparrow and Chisnell are going to be on circuit.
This is
effectively, I've heard of saying before, off track they're friends, but on track they're just another rival. So that's how they're going to treat it. And as they go off on the formation lap, of course, these first generation Mazda MX-5s are arguably one of the best small sports cars of all time. It's been the blueprint for things like other cars that have come through. I think there's been many sports cars that have come close to being better than a Mazda MX-5, arguably. I think if I'm right, when they built this car, it was originally inspired, I think, by the original MGB, if I'm correct. I think, or either that or one of the Triumphs, one of the two, but it was inspired by something that was BMC created, and the Japanese simply went, we'll make it like them, be inspired, but we'll just make it better. And so the MX-5 has got particularly the NA variant, the Mark 1, which is also known in other places in the world as either a Miata or a Yunus Roadster in Japan, which is a lesser known name, but of course Miata if you're more North American inclined, but also Yunus Roadster is one that I know from playing Gran Turismo, of course, from the times when it's been known by that over in Japan. But it's typically known, of course, as simply the Mazda MX-5. 1.6 litre engine, manual gearbox, of course, rear-wheel drive, and again, another car like, in many cases, I think like a Caterham or a Lotus Elise, where they're very good at teaching you car control, teaching you how to race with mechanical grip only and to race with limited setup parameters. And there's a reason why a lot of people love racing an MX-5, whether it's a Mark 1, or any given weekend a Mark 1. There is, of course, places around the world for the lesser known, I think lesser appreciated Mark 2, which is basically a slightly rebodied and tweaked Mark 1 chassis, but just modernised with a new body on that side. And then, of course, there's the Mark 3, which I think wrongly gets criticised as being, for some people, as being the worst MX-5 made, which I disagree with. The Super Cup cars look fantastic, they sound great, and they make good cars, and of course it formed the basis for what we now know as the Global MX-5 Cup, and then you can go on top of that. Everyone loves the Mark 4 ND Global MX-5 Cup over in the US, which always gets fantastic action, particularly when they go and race on the ovals. They race always at Martinsville, and also they always have a support spot on the Daytona 24 Hours, and usually on the IMSA package on top of that, and they bring brilliant racing wherever they go. And it's any given weekend you'll find a Mazda MX-5 racing or competing somewhere. There's a reason why it's one of those cars. It's simply just, you get into it and it just is a car that gives you pure driving joy and excitement. Regardless of how much power it's got, no matter what generation, it's always a car that puts a massive smile on your face, and it's such a pleasure to drive, whether you race it solo on a track, in a sprint or a hill climb, or doing track days, or competing against, in this case, some 25 other cars in front of you around you on the grid on a race event like this.
Yeah, as you say, it's the perfect proving ground for drivers to learn their craft and learn how to drive a car quickly, but learn also how to race door-to-door respectfully with your fellow drivers. Not only is it perfect for drivers learning, it's also perfect for the likes of mechanics as well. I've been told, I'm not a mechanic myself, but I've been told it's a great baseline to learn the basics of mechanicking and get yourself stepping up into proper circuit racing mechanicking. So not only is it a great proving ground on the track, it's also a great proving ground off the track as well for everyone in and amongst the team to learn their craft and continue to press on through their motorsport careers, which is great to see. But plenty of drivers on the grid then for this one. 25 MX-5s in total, about to take to the race start for the second time. Let's hope we make it all through the first corner on this second time of asking. Let's wait and see. Sparrow and Chisnell on the front row of the grid yet again then. They both got a pretty even getaway first time of asking. Let's see if either one of them is able to master it on this second attempt and pull away and steal away the race lead first time of asking. The 77 and the 11, Steve Foden and Michael Taylor waiting on the second row of the grid as well, just as we get the last of the few drivers into grid position here then, and we get ready for a second attempt at this race start. Looks as though the 5-second board is getting readied. Not quite up yet. There we go. It's up. Race. Second attempt at the race start. About to get underway then, Scott.
So, Mazda MX-5's take 2 here at Snetterton for the AD Modular Thermal Road Mazda MX-5 Championship. Second race of the weekend, and as they get away from the line, this time it's a much more even start this time. And again, it looks like Chisnell might go wheel to wheel with Sparrow down towards Richie's corner. Let's see if we can get through with fingers crossed, toes crossed, everything crossed we get through without any dramas. Side by side in towards Richie's, and Chisnell tries to sweep around the outside with Foden trying to split between the middle of them. He doesn't quite do. Pack goes through this time, and they've got through just about safely. A little bit of bumping and boring, but they've gone through just fine. And it's Sparrow who leads now with Foden to the inside of Chisnell for second place. Also in there too is Michael Taylor in the black and orange number 11. Out through Wilson Hairpin, back up through the gears again towards Palmer's for the first time on this second start. Chisnell fights back on the inside to defend from Foden, and Steve starts to work the wheel of the 77 car, former champion, as they come out of the left-hander down into the infield section of Agostini Hairpin, that 180-degree turn under the brakes again. Sparrow leading into the apex. Chisnell, Foden, Taylor, then it's Wootton from green. Up there too as well, it looks like I think the possibly McLagan, I think, in car 21. There's Matthew McCluckey in car 2 in the blue car for NHA Motorsport. There's a bit of moving around in the midfield there somewhere as they headed towards Hamilton's for the first time on this restart. Oh, and there's one car off against it's the other AB Motorsport car. It's 88's off the road this time, and 88 is Dev Singhal in another AB Motorsport car. It's the same sort of livery as the car from last year. Now, is that going to prompt at least a safety car or another red flag? We'll wait and see what the move is on the pit wall. No movement just yet, and Dev Singhal's car I don't think has moved yet, so his car might well be causing an issue if he can't get it going. It might be a safety car, but we'll have to wait and see. Nothing moving yet. As you can see there, that was a move there from in the pack saying, come on, go with me. Let's push and try and catch forward to the front. With the front runners, it is Sparrow from Chisnell from Foden. That's the top three. No movement for the marshals or from race control just yet with Dev Singhal's car, unless he's got away again. Still Taylor in fourth. Safety car deployed. So there's the instant reaction from the BRCC officials, and out goes the Jaguar safety car to pick up the field when it comes past the pits and then the black number 1. I think they've done that because it's probably an easier car to move out of the way than it was with the incident we had in the barriers down at Richie's corner. So I imagine they're doing that so they can keep the race running, also because I imagine possibly it's the easiest thing to do straight away because they can't immediately stop the race again and possibly cause even more delays. So safety car's been deployed, and that means that Adam Sparrow gets a chance to preserve his lead with Chisnell and Foden in tow as we go neutralised barely a lap into this second restart in this AD Modular Thermal Road Mazda MX-5 Championship race, and there I'm afraid is the aftermath of Dev Singhal's car with some rather crumpled front end as a result of that. Unfortunately, it means that Ali Bray squad has got some work to do with 2 of their cars over the break between races, because race 3 comes up later on this afternoon. Timetabled at around about originally 20 past 4, but that can depending on their ahead or behind time based on how things go for the rest of the afternoon and how much time we might into for lunch. If anything else happens before then, with the next couple of races coming up after that.
A shame then, already neutralised once again. We made it a little bit further around the lap that time, but sadly once again we're neutralised, and that's end of the race for Dev Singhal. Yeah, hopefully the team can get to work then. They've got a few hours to try and get that car prepared again, ready for race number 3, and hopefully we do see the cars that have fallen by the wayside in this one so far making it back out in race number 3 later on today. Yeah, interesting to see there down the Bentley straight, the classic karting pointing forward. Don't overtake me, don't use the slipstream, give me a push, let's work together and try and close back up to the drivers ahead of us. Now, often You don't really get to do that in car racing because you've got 4 walls around you, so it's difficult to see your fellow drivers. But in these Mazdas, you're so open to the elements that you can communicate with the drivers through hand gestures in car racing. Never something you usually see once you move past karts, but clearly drivers using it very nicely there, working together. And as we've seen across all the racing, particularly here at somewhere like Snetterton, where you can use the slipstream very well, those tactics really do come into play across a race like this. So interesting that we get to see on the live stream that communication between the drivers while they're out there racing absolutely door to door.
It's also quite fun to watch and quite amusing to watch, giving the signal that don't race me, you want to go towards the front, let's work together. But that truce never really lasts very long. It's a case of they'll start to work together, and all of a sudden when it gets to the end of the race, when they're far enough in front, they're like, forget it, I'm going to battle you now because you've got enough time to do so. But sometimes people will have a chat about it before the race. They'll think, right, don't battle me if we're in a backpack together. Don't battle for the first 15 minutes. And we've got far enough in front, then start to fight when we get towards the last lap. Or they'll say, go to the last lap, then go for it. So it means you do get, it's not, I wouldn't call it false racing, but it's more biding their time to make sure they can battle safely without having other cars in the mix. And drivers talk about it more than you think. Of course, I'm sure you've had it in terms before when you've raced in Fun Cup or anything else, where you do tend to have conversations with other drivers, not just because you're being friendly, but also because you think of tactics in terms of you might try and find a drafting partner or somebody out on track who you can trust in terms of giving you a push or a tow or something else that you can race enough to kind of move forward if you find yourself in that same area in the pack. And you tend to talk to, I'm sure, the drivers around you to think, right, if we find ourselves in a battle here or nose to tail, at what point do we actually call a truce, work together to try and catch the cars in front or give a signal to whatever that might be, and then once we get in the mix and we're clear enough to do so, then we can kind of say, right, gloves are off now, we can start battling properly like we were because we're not going to lose too much time. So given you've raced, of course, what goes through your mind when you're kind of talking to a driver to work that out, or when you're in a situation where you are battling, you have to try and signal to them? What sort of process or what thought process are you going through to figure that out?
It's difficult because in Fun Cup, there's not usually a huge amount of that. The only thing we might chat about is for the first lap of the race, because of course in Fun Cup it's all mixed up grid, so everyone's very out of position. So you might just have a chat with some drivers around you just to say, yeah, let's not battle in the opening part, let's just work together and try and press on through. But once you get into racing action, all of that pretty much goes out the window and it's every man and woman for themselves. But yeah, you try and maybe have a little conflict before, especially if it's a driver that you know, a driver that you trust. You can then work together very nicely. But as we say, once the helmet's on, everything pretty much goes out the window. There can be a little bit of working together and a bit of conflab once you're out there on the racetrack, but really it's just get out of my way. I'm trying to get as far up the grid as possible. So let's see. Often you can see in karting, which I think you would see less so in club racing, but in karting you sometimes see it where there'll be drivers in a train. The driver at the front looks back, the driver behind points forward and then immediately goes for the overtake at the next corner. Just to lull them into a false sense of security that they don't need to defend when actually they did. So don't trust anyone around you. But that's particularly in junior kart racing, which you can never trust anyone out there on the black stuff. Here in club racing, though, a lot more camaraderie amongst the grid of drivers and maybe a bit more understanding between them of pressing through the race and working together and ultimately trying to lose as least amount of time as possible. Safety car continuing on round then. Of course, unlike the red flag we had earlier, the timer continuing to tick down in this one. So sadly for the drivers, losing a bit of racing time, but that's what happens when there's incidents. And of course, Sparrow, he's going to want to have raced for this race win, but at the moment he's sitting pretty sweet there, up in the lead of the race. And with the time ticking down, when we do go back to green flag conditions, it's just going to be less and less time that the likes of Chisnell, Foden, Taylor can find a way back through and steal away the race win. So for the moment, Adam Sparrow looking to make it 2 from 2 from this weekend, which would be a lovely start to this season. Of course, I realised yesterday that I have spoken with Adam before. He used to race in TKMs back in karting in the British Car Championships a few years ago, but he's taken to cars like a duck to water over the last couple of years, and while still leading this race, he won yesterday's race. So Adam, very impressive behind the wheel of that number 19. But with the safety car, of course, we'd only had, that time it was maybe about 3/4 of a lap, but gaps were already starting to open up amongst the field, not by huge chasms, but still ever so slightly. So let's close them all back up again. We go back into single file formation, and as you've just seen there, the car of Dev Singal up on the low loader. as there it is in the middle of your shot now. We'll be heading back across the circuit and back out of harm's way in a couple of moments' time, and that leads me to believe that this safety car will be coming in pretty sharpish as well, and we should hopefully maybe get about 5 minutes of racing here to cap off the second race of the weekend here in the Modular Mazda MX-5 Championship. The drivers heading on round then, still behind the safety car. Also a big thank you to Thermal Road for sponsoring the championship for this year as well, and great to see so many drivers behind the wheel and getting stuck in Mazda MX-5 racing. It treated us throughout yesterday, and it's treating us here again today. Snetterton, clearly a good circuit for these Mazdas, but I will say, across this championship and across all the championships to be fair that are racing this weekend, the circuits on the bill are just fantastic for drivers not only to be treated to some great racing, but also continue to improve their racecraft and their racing ability. And we're able to take you along for the fun here with the live stream as well. Myself, John Ratcliffe, and Scott Woodwis here in the commentary box. Rod Lewis, of course, over on interviewing duties here this weekend, and we will be hearing from him in a few minutes' time once this race is completed. Safety car lights sadly still on at the moment. I'd hope maybe they'd be going out at the end of this lap, but there's still a little bit of time for the safety car lights on top of that Jaguar to go out. Let's see if they do, or if we head on round for another lap behind the Jaguar safety car. Let's wait and see. We tick down towards 5 minutes left to go now in this race. Sadly, it's been neutralised for quite a while. We had that initial crash down at the first corner on our first race start, and we made it round to the infield section on the second time of asking. Lights are out though, Scott. I think we're about to go back to racing then. Drivers lining up in single file formation, all held by Adam Sparrow, and he'll be the one who decides when we go back to full racing speed.
I will say, he's probably the only person here that he does like a good race. The only person who's actually happy the safety car was going out long, because it means he preserves his lead. He now has to do it all himself now as he comes out of Murray's corner. He's already put his foot down, which means as the pace quickens, as they come out of the final turn and back onto the centre straight to get the race back underway with just about 4.5 minutes left to go. Green flag back in the air, and the AD Modular Thermal Road Mazda MX-5 Championship is back underway and racing. And Neil Chisnell immediately putting his Pissarro under pressure. Foden sits back in third and watches on as Chisnell has to go on the attack around the outside, moving around and getting sideways and running out wide slightly. A little too hot into the right-hander. This now gives Foden the chance to try and retaliate. He might well pull alongside as he gets under brakes. Has track position. Chisnell can't do anything about it but try and defend on the outside line. Tries to stick on Foden's door, which he does. Has just about enough grip on those Kumo tyres to put himself level. And now put himself wide level on the run towards the left-hander. Side by side into Palmer's, and again Chisnell swoops across and cuts back into second place, but all that is only given the momentum to Sparrow to try and pull away with the clear air that he has. Down towards Agostino they come. Sparrow who leads, Foden looking back again for second, darting out and having a look. He's got the track position, slightly light, it looked slightly later on the brakes, but he's now going to run wheel to wheel as Chisnell's got enough confidence on the outside line to hold on in the number 8 machine. And doing well also is Michael Taylor in car number 11. He is not a rookie in this championship, but he is certainly putting in quite a fine performance in P4. And also so too, once again, is Richard Wotton, who's found some pace last year and certainly improved in leaps and bounds in the last couple of seasons. To come out of Oggies once again. But Adam Sparrow, as we said before, 2-time vice champion in MX-5 Championship. Looking to try and go for the title this time. If he keeps up performances like this, especially if Chisnell starts to keep battling with him, I'd imagine Chisnell wasn't there because he was a guest. Foden will be straight back onto Sparrow's tail, and that might be the story for the rest of the year. This is Dennis Pilamonkin being chased down by Paul Simard. Remember, he started at the back of the grid in 25th position after he DNF'd yesterday. They come underneath the Hyundai Bridge and back in towards Brundon Nelson. And so far it seems as though, John, Adam Sparrow treating that restart perfectly, despite the initial pressure from Neil Chisnell. In fact, he's made mistakes and been battling with Foden. Means he's been so preoccupied that, again, the harder those two fought each other, easier it has been on this restart for Sparrow to continue making a break.
Yeah, Neil Chisnell took the Caterham tagline to heart there, didn't he, on that opening restart? The best form of defence is attack, going for it round the outside, but lost that bit of apex speed, got all sorts of slidey, and that opened up the opportunity for Steve Foden to get stuck in. It took him a couple of attempts, but finally getting it done through the left-hander of Hamilton's, and up to second place he goes. Was it enough of a break of the slipstream there on this opening restart lap from Adam Sparrow? Well, for the moment, he still holds the lead of the race, but now that the 77 of Steve Foden has been released, it's his turn to look to chase down your race leader. And what kind of lap times are they doing on full chat in these? 2:20. We were close there as to whether we did go on to the final lap or not. I can't see a board out, but there is potential that this is the final lap of the race, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, the full time of this race curtailed there by the incidents earlier on. A shame, but either way, we get treated to a little 5-minute dash here to cap this one off. Well, to answer my earlier question, if Sparrow had broken the toe well enough, no is the answer to that, as he now has to defend from Steve Foden, and Chisnell is going with them as well. Covering that inside line heavily there is Adam Sparrow. He's defending hard as round the outside now tries Chisnell. He's going to try and do it on one, tries to hang it round the outside of Sparrow as well. It's not quite going to work though.
No, impressive stuff, and I figured Foden might do that once he got clear air, because Foden is formidable, of course, being in MX-5, always has been. Of course, he was battling for the title last year with Ali Bray. Did beat him a couple of times on the road, but it was penalties that pushed him back behind Ali, which helped the AB Motorsport team boss have that dominant, completely unbeaten 100% win record. 23 races in last year's championship, 23 wins. It's been one so far for Adam Sparrow. Foden would quite like one himself, because he actually has literally won this championship literally now for over a year, which is quite extraordinary. Down the back straight they go, and look at Michael Taylor. Watch for him in black and red in number 11. He might get the double toe from both lead cars battling for second place. There he goes to the outside line, trying to make it 3 abreast. Wotton's in there as well. Watching the background for the white car with the blue and green stripe. That's Michael Green trying to get involved. He's in P6. And there goes Taylor, not just for third, but for second. He's past Chisnell, up the inside in towards Foden, in towards second place. Brilliant stuff from Michael Taylor. Now, there is an AB Motorsport car. Shouldn't be surprising given he does put quite a good car together. Meanwhile, further back, that's Michael McCluckey trying to hold back Paul Bateman, who's looking pretty racy. And we are on the last lap of the race, so the checkered flag is coming at this time by. So if you're going to make a move, do it now. Michael Taylor might have just pulled the ultimate move to get second place, unless Foden picks his way past on the run towards the flag. But out of the Murray's corner for the final time, the sprint for second is going to be the one to watch for. But to make it 2 from 2, hoping to make a hat-trick later on this afternoon. Adam Sparrow again making a firm bid to be a favourite for the title already in the first weekend. Cross the line comes Sparrow, and he takes victory. Race number 2 of Foden gets the second place on the line from Taylor. The run up the pit straight was so strong from Foden, he pulled out on the run to the line and managed to beat him to the flag by 64 thousandths of a second to steal second place, but that will still be an excellent third place and a first podium for Michael Taylor. Brilliant stuff for the AB Motorsport driver. And it's 4th for Neil Chisnell, 5th for Richard Wotton, then Green, McCluckey, Bateman up to P8. Remember, he started back in 12th on the grid. The former MX-5 club and title contender and race winner up there in P8. Good to see him back in the MX-5 championship. And then Harry Storer, and it was the 121 of Lengyel who picked up a top 10 also, so congratulations to him for getting into the top 10 as a result of that. But Adam Sparrow, again, making it a perfect record so far. 2 races in the AD Modular Thermal Road Mazda MX-5 Championship for 2026 here at Snetterton. 2 race victories taken, 1 more still to go if he can make it the hat-trick. And of course, again, given the results of the grid for race 3 is again set by the results of race 2, he could well make that happen. We'll have Steve Foden right alongside him on the front row of the grid. So, Adam Sparrow with the fast snap of the race takes the victory. Steve Foden in second place. Michael Taylor gets the first podium in third, followed by Neil Chisnell, Richard Wotton, Michael Green, Matthew McCluckey, Paul Bateman, Harry Storer and Daniel Lengyel, with Paul Simard from the back of the grid to 11th. That's a great drive from Paul Simard, possibly one of the drives of the weekend so far. Dennis Pillamonkin gets 12th ahead of Adam Craig. He again for the back of the grid from 27th on the grid up to, or 26th on the grid, up to 13th, so past half the field in that race, even with the safety car. Might have got higher had that not come out. Chris Wright, Tim Storer, Chris Thelwell, Privet, Williams, McLagan, Bartlett, Pater, Gilligan, Scowler, and we lost Def Singal, and also we lost both Philip Rawson and Jason Greatrex from that race after an incident at the first corner at Ritchie's on the first start. So another great MX-5 race all round from the BRSCC.